It was one of those brutal summer arvos in Sydney's west, the kind where the heat bounces off the asphalt and hits you like a slap from a wet towel. December 28, 2025, and the mercury was pushing 38 degrees. I'd just knocked off from a 12-hour shift on a high-rise site in Parramatta, body aching, shirt soaked through with sweat, dust caked into every crease of me skin. All I wanted was a cold schooner and a bit of quiet before heading home to Blacktown. I pulled me ute into the car park of the old Royal Oak Hotel on Church Street. The place hadn't changed in 20 years, faded red brick, neon VB sign flickering half dead, and a front door that creaked like it was complaining about the heat too. It was a proper old school pub, pokies clanging in the back, a couple of blokes arguing over the cricket on the telly, and the smell of stale beer mixed with deep-fried dim sims from the bistro. Not fancy, but it was close to the site and the beer was cheap. I pushed through the door, the aircon hitting me like a blessing from above. The bar was half empty, a few tradies still in high-vis like me, an old couple nursing pots in the corner, and one lone bloke perched at the far end of the bar. He was in his late 60s, maybe 70, with skin like cracked leather from too many years in the sun. Grey stubble, faded blue singlet, and a schooner glass that looked like it hadn't moved in hours. His eyes were sharp, though, piercing blue, the kind that made you feel like he'd already sized you up before you even noticed him. I nodded at the barmaid, Shazza, been pulling beers there since I was a young fella sneaking in with a fake ID, and ordered me usual. Schooner of new, thanks love. She slid it across with a wink. I took a long pull, feeling the cold bite slide down me throat, washing away the grit of the day. That's when the old bloke turned his head slow, like he'd been waiting for me to settle. He didn't smile, didn't raise his glass. Just leaned in a bit, voice low and gravelly, the kind of voice that carried weight without needing volume. Enter quietly, mate, he said, eyes locked on mine. Whatever ya do, don't make a bloody scene when ya get home. I froze mid-sip. The words hung there, heavy as the humidity outside. I didn't know this bloke from a bar of soap. Never seen him before in me life. But the way he said it, dead serious, no slur, no joke, sent a chill right through me despite the heat. Mate, you alright? I asked, half laughing to shake off the weirdness. You talkin' to me? He didn't answer straight away. Just took a slow sip of his beer, eyes never leaving mine. I'm talkin' to you, yeah. Just, go careful tonight. Some things ya hear, ya can't unha. Some doors ya open quieter better than kicking, in loud. I looked around, half expecting someone to jump out with a camera, some TikTok prank or whatever the kids were into these days. But the pub was the same as always. Shazza polishing glasses, the pokies flashing, the cricket commentary droning on about the Boxing Day test. You know me or something? I pressed, leaning on the bar. He shook his head slow. Don't need to know ya to see trouble comin'. Just take the advice, son. Enter quietly. Then, as if the conversation never happened, he turned back to his beer, staring at the racing guide like I wasn't even there. I stood there for a minute, schooner halfway to me lips, feeling like the room had tilted a bit. Fair dinkum weird. I finished me drink quick smart, threw a tenner on the bar, and headed for the door. As I stepped back into the wall of heat outside, I glanced over me shoulder. The old bloke didn't look up. Just sat there, still as a statue. I told myself it was nothing. Probably some old codger off his meds, or someone who'd had one too many and saw conspiracy in everything. But as I fired up the ute and pointed it toward the M4, those words kept rattling around in me head. Enter quietly. Little did I know, that stranger, whoever the hell he was, had just handed me the one warning that would save me life. I shook off the old bloke's warning as I merged onto the M4, windows down, hot wind whipping through the ute like a bloody hairdryer. The radio was banging out some classic Triple M, AC/DC's, Highway to Hell, which felt a bit on the nose after that weird pub encounter. I turned it up anyway, trying to drown out the nagging echo in me head, enter quietly. Fair dinkum, what a load of old cobblers. Probably just some lonely pensioner stirring the pot for a bit of attention. By the time I hit the Great Western Highway turn-off, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky that orange-pink you only get in summer out west. Christmas lights were still up on half the houses, tinsel sagging in the heat, inflatable Santas looking like they'd melted a bit. Our street in Blacktown was the same, neat brick veneers, hills hoists in backyards, kids' bikes dumped on nature strips. Normal. Safe. Mine. Sarah and I had bought the place 12 years ago, back when we were young and stupid in love. 3 bedrooms, a decent-sized block, room for a veggie patch and a trampoline. We painted the kids' rooms ourselves, pink for Ava, blue for Jake, and hosted Barbies every second weekend. Footy grand finals on the big telly, snags on the Weber, cold ones in an esky full of ice. That was us. Proper Aussie family. Lately, though, things had felt off. Not massive red flags, just little niggles that piled up if you let yourself think about them. Sarah had been distant, always on her phone, thumbs flying whenever I walked into the room. She'd laugh it off, just scrolling Insta, babe, or chatting to the mums group about school stuff. Fair enough, I'd think. She's home with the kids all day, deserves a bit of adult convo. Then there was Mick, me little brother, 2 years younger, the one I'd always looked out for. Growing up in Penrith, we'd been thick as thieves, fighting side by side in the schoolyard, sharing a room till he was 18, even doing our apprenticeships together. He'd gone off the rails a bit in his 20s, gambling, bad crowds, a couple of stints in rehab for the pokies, but I'd always had his back. Bailed him out more times than I could count. These days he was between jobs again. Said he was doing cashies here and there, but he'd been round our place heaps. Helping Sarah with the heavy stuff while you're on site, he'd say. Fixing the back fence, mowing the lawn, picking the kids up from school when Sarah had appointments. I was grateful, honestly. Long hours on the tools meant I wasn't home much, and it was good knowing family was looking out for family. Still, there'd been moments. Like the way Sarah's eyes lit up when Mick walked in. Or how they'd go quiet if I came home unexpected. I told myself I was being paranoid. Trust, right, that's what marriage is built on. 15 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, we were solid. I pulled into the driveway a bit after 7. The house looked quiet from the street, no lights on in the front rooms, curtains drawn. Usually Sarah had the kitchen light blazing and something on the stove bubbling away. Maybe she'd taken the kids to her mum's for tea, I thought. Or they'd all crashed early after a hot day at the pool. I grabbed me work bag from the passenger seat, killed the engine, and sat there for a sec. The old bloke's words slithered back in, enter quietly. Don't make a scene. I laughed under me breath. Stupid. But something, call it gut instinct, call it that prickling on the back of your neck, made me move slower than usual. Instead of using the front door like always, I went round the side gate, past the wheelie bins and the lemon tree Sarah was always banging on about pruning. The backyard was dark too, but I could see a faint glow coming from the lounge room window at the back. The sliding door was cracked open an inch. Weird, because Sarah hated flies getting in this time of year. I stopped just outside, boots silent on the concrete path. Voices, low, murmured, but definitely there. Sarah's laugh, soft, intimate, the one she used to give me when we were dating. And Mick's deeper rumble answering her. I don't know why I didn't just walk in. Maybe it was the heat making me sluggish. Maybe it was that stranger's warning looping in me brain. But I stayed put, ear close to the gap, heart already starting to thump harder than it should. And that's when I heard it, clear as the cicadas screaming in the gum trees. Our plan is flawless, Sarah whispered, excitement in her voice like I hadn't heard in years. I froze, every muscle locked, as the world I thought I knew started cracking right down the middle. I stood there in the dark backyard, sweat trickling down me back despite the evening breeze, ear pressed to the gap in the sliding door. The cicadas were going hammer and tongs in the gum trees, but inside the house it was dead quiet except for those 2 voices, Sarah and Mick, talking like they were the only people in the world. Sarah spoke first, her voice low and excited, the way it used to get when we were planning holidays back when money wasn't so tight. Our plan is flawless, Mick. Truly, no one's gonna suspect a thing. My stomach flipped. Plan? What bloody plan? Mick let out a soft chuckle, that familiar throaty laugh I'd heard a million times growing up. You're a dead-set genius, love. Always said you were too good for him. I felt like I'd been king hit. Too good for me. My own brother. Sarah kept going, words spilling out like she'd rehearsed them 100 times. The life insurance is sitting at $500,000 now, double indemnity if it's an accident on site. Everyone knows how dodgy those high-rises are. Loose scaffolding, a harness that fails, a bit of grease on the wrong beam, bang. Tragic workplace fatality. Poor devoted wife left to raise the kids alone. Mick made a humming sound, approving. And the payout hits within weeks if we've got the paperwork straight. House paid off, debt's gone, plenty left over. We take the kids, move up the coast like we talked about. Sunshine Coast, maybe. New schools, new start. Ava and Jake'll get over it quick, they're young. I could picture them clear as day through the gap in the curtains, Sarah curled up on the couch, legs tucked under her, head resting on Mick's shoulder. His arm around her like it belonged there. The soft glow of the lamp picking out the empty wine bottles on the coffee table, 2 bottles, not one. Sarah sighed, content. I've already started moving money into the other account. Small bits, nothing that'll flag. And you've got the gear sorted for the site. Yeah, mate at the yard owes me a favor. He'll make sure the right harness is on your hubby's rack next week. One little snip in the webbing, looks like normal wear and tear. Coroner'll sign off on misadventure without a second glance. Happens all the time. My knees nearly buckled. I grabbed the doorframe to steady myself, heart smashing so hard I was sure they'd hear it. The harness. My harness. The one I clipped on every single morning without a second thought. Sarah's voice dropped even lower. I feel bad about the kids sometimes. They love their dad. Mick snorted. They'll love their new dad too. And they'll have a better life. No more scraping by, no more him coming home stinking of sweat and concrete, barking at everyone 'cause he's knackered. We're doing him a favor, babe. Doing him a favor. I wanted to be sick. 15 years of grafting, breaking me back to give them everything, the house, holidays to the Gold Coast, private swimming lessons for Ava, new boots for Jake's footy, and this is what it came down to. A $500,000 payout and a better life with my brother. I heard the couch creak as one of them shifted. Sarah again, almost dreamy. You know the best bit. Everyone'll feel sorry for me. The neighbors, his workmates, even his bloody mum. Cards, casseroles, GoFundMe pages. Poor Sarah, lost her husband in such a terrible accident. We'll be golden. Mick laughed proper this time. Golden, yeah, long as we keep our stories straight. You've been a legend putting up with him this long. That was the knife twist. Putting up with me, like I was some burden she'd endured for the sake of the insurance policy. I backed away slow, one step at a time, careful not to kick the loose paver near the clothesline. The night air felt thick, suffocating. Every happy memory, our wedding at Penrith Panthers, Ava's first steps in this very backyard, Jake's birth when Sarah squeezed my hand so hard I thought she'd break it. All of it poisoned now, twisted into something ugly. I made it to the side gate, slipped through, and leaned against the ute, sucking in deep breaths, hands shaking. I pulled out my phone. 000. My thumb hovered over the call button. Betrayal burned hotter than the December sun ever could. My wife, my brother, planning to murder me for money like I was nothing more than an obstacle in their way. But I was still breathing, and thanks to one weird old stranger in a pub, I'd entered quietly enough to hear the truth before it was too late. I don't know how long I stood there leaning against the ute, staring at the house that wasn't a home anymore. Minutes, maybe. The street was quiet except for the distant hum of the motorway and a neighbor's telly blaring the cricket. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I dialed 000. The operator's calm voice cut through the fog in my head. Police, fire or ambulance. Police, I croaked. I need to report a conspiracy to murder my wife and my brother. I just heard them planning it. I gave her the address, told her to send detectives, not uniforms, didn't want sirens spooking them into running. She kept me on the line till the first unmarked car rolled up 10 minutes later. 2 plainclothes coppers, a bloke and a Sheila, introduced themselves quiet-like, listened while I repeated everything I'd heard. They recorded it on a body-worn, asked if I was willing to wear a wire. I said yes without hesitation. Anything to nail the bastards. They coached me in the back of their car, go inside normal, act knackered from work, don't let on. Get 'em talking again if I could. I walked in the front door this time, calling out, "G'day, I'm home." Like nothing was wrong. Sarah jumped up from the couch, face flushed, smoothing her hair. Mick was already heading for the kitchen, grabbing a stubby from the fridge like he owned the place. "You're early," Sarah said, "too bright. Kids are at mum's for a sleepover." "Yeah, site knocked off at 6, I lied, dumping me bag. Bloody hot one today." We sat around the kitchen table, the same table where we'd carved pumpkins with the kids, celebrated birthdays, argued over bills. Now it felt poisoned. The detectives had parked down the street, listening through the tiny mic clipped under me shirt collar. I steered the convo careful, asked about their day, mentioned the insurance policy I'd topped up last year, for the kids' sake. Sarah's eyes flickered. Mick cracked a joke about workplace accidents being part of the job. It was enough. Within an hour, 4 more coppers arrived, read them their rights, cuffed them right there in our lounge room. Sarah screamed at me, called me every name under the sun. Mick just stared, pale as a ghost, muttering, "You weren't supposed to know, mate." The next days were a blur. Forensics tore the house apart, found the secret bank account statements hidden in Sarah's underwear drawer, texts between them going back 18 months, even photos of my harness with close-ups of the webbing. Mick's phone had messages to his mate at the yard, confirming the sabotage job. It was airtight. The media went berserk. Front page of the Daily Telly, suburban betrayal, wife and brother-in-law charged over plot to kill tradie for $500,000 insurance. A current affair camped outside for days, neighbors giving tearful interviews about what a lovely couple we'd seemed. My mugshot from the wedding photo splashed everywhere next to headlines screaming, "Family horror in Blacktown." Relatives disowned Mick. Sarah's mum collapsed when the cops told her. Me own parents aged 10 years overnight. I took Ava and Jake straight to Nan and Pop's place up in the Blue Mountains, fresh air, no reporters, just space to breathe. The kids were confused, asking why Mummy and Uncle Mick were in trouble. I told them the truth in bits they could handle, that the grown-ups had made very bad choices, but Daddy loved them more than anything and we'd be okay. Custody came quick, emergency orders in my favor. Sarah and Mick were denied bail, remanded till trial. Conspiracy to murder carries heavy time. Prosecutors reckon they're looking at 15 to 20 each if convicted. Some nights I still wake up sweating, hearing Sarah's voice in me head, "Our plan is flawless." But then I look at the kids sleeping safe in the next room and know we dodged a bullet. That old stranger from the pub, I went back looking for him a week later. Bought the bar around, asked Shazza if she knew him. She reckoned he was a regular years ago, but hadn't been in for months. Maybe he'd been there that one night for a reason. Maybe he'd overheard them plotting in the beer garden weeks earlier and waited for the right moment to tip me off. I'll never know his name. But wherever he is, I owe him me life. And every day I get to tuck Ava and Jake in, watch them chase magpies in Nan's backyard, I whisper a quiet thanks. Family's supposed to be everything in this country. Turns out sometimes it's the thing that nearly kills you. But we're rebuilding, me and the kids, one quiet day at a time.